Hello and welcome to a walking photo tour of the fortified medieval village of Warkworth in Northumberland. Our walk is accompanied by a running commentary on some of Warkworth's unique features. Today we shall be completing a circuit of the village, which is a popular tourist destination with a population of around 1500. As you can see from the map, the village sits on a peninsula which is bounded on three sides by the meandering River Coquet. We begin at Warkworth Castle and walk to the entrance on the A1068 Woodlands Road. From there we take a left and continue walking along Castle Street, which snakes around the imposing castle keep towering above. We continue following Castle Street in a generally northerly direction towards the centre of the village, before merging into Bridge Street just beyond the marketplace. Continuing on to Bridge Street, we reach the River Coquet, which is spanned by two bridges, the old or medieval bridge and the new concrete and steel bridge. We cross the old bridge and then double back across the new bridge, taking some time to admire the river views in each direction. From the new bridge we take a left into the Butts, passing the old schoolhouse and flood defences, before eventually merging onto Wellfield. We continue on Wellfield as it curves to the left for the steady climb back towards the castle. The total distance covered is 1.7 kilometres, with a walking time of around 25 minutes. As the entire route is paved, it makes for easy walking, with the only exception being the final steep climb up Wellfield back towards the castle. By way of scene setting, I have started by the River Coquet half a mile or so to the east of Warkworth. Warkworth developed as a medieval settlement as it was the lowest bridging point on the river. The meandering river and elevated terrain provided the ideal position for this formidable Norman fortress, which was built in the mid-12th century. Being less than a mile from the coast, a thriving harbour was established at the mouth of the river. Despite their ancient appearance, the shipwrecks visible at low tide are from the early 20th century, when the main commodity of Warkworth Harbour was coal from the nearby mines. We start today's walk at Warkworth Castle, which is now under the stewardship of English Heritage. The origins of Warkworth Castle can be traced back to the early 12th century, when it was first built by the de Percy family, who were powerful barons in the region. The initial structure was a simple wooden fortification, which was later replaced by a stone keep in the late 12th century. This stone keep, known as the Great Tower, still stands today and is one of the most iconic features of the castle. Over the next 300 years or so, the castle, still under the ownership of the Percy family, underwent significant expansion, including the addition of a great hall, chapel, luxurious living quarters and reinforced defences. In 1403, during a period of civil uprising, the castle was damaged by the forces of King Henry IV. It came under the ownership of the Crown, but was restored to the Percy family on the accession of King Henry V. The castle was again forfeited to the Crown during the Wars of the Roses, but returned to the Percy family in 1470. In the 16th century, the castle's fortunes began to decline as the Percy family's influence waned. The castle was largely abandoned, and many of its buildings fell into disrepair. In the 19th century, the castle was acquired by renowned local inventor and industrialist William George Armstrong. He undertook a programme of restoration and preservation. Armstrong's efforts helped to save the castle from further decay. This is the A1068 Woodlands Road. A little to our left, just beyond the next junction, begins Castle Street. Despite a few patches of blue sky peeking through between the clouds, there are actually a few flecks of rain starting to fall. We are now on Castle Street. During the early spring, the bank beneath the castle keep is a stunning blaze of yellow daffodils. Unfortunately, the blooms have now disappeared and all that remains are the straggly green leaves. As I mentioned briefly earlier, this is the main A1068 road, which begins at Alnwick in the north and ends at the Seatonburn roundabout just a few miles north of Newcastle in the south. For the most part, the road follows the Northumberland coastline, affording spectacular views across Allamouth Bay and the estuaries of the River Wansbeck and Blythe. Just down the drive on our right here is the Sun Hotel. The Sun offers quality traditional accommodation befitting the surroundings. Its 15 rooms feature elegant decor and a private ensuite bathroom. During peak season they start around £100 per night including breakfast. The Castle Brewhouse is the Sun's traditional country pub, serving a fine selection of beers, coffees, light bites and hearty bar food. A few days a week the conservatory transforms into the No. 6 Steakhouse, which serves up prime cuts of Northumbrian meat. The Sun is also a popular local functions venue. It regularly hosts family gatherings, birthdays, weddings and wakes. This is still Castle Street, but we are now descending into the heart of the village. Coming up on the right is Warkworth War Memorial Hall. The hall is used for all manner of clubs, classes and meetings. In addition to the main hall, which can comfortably accommodate 100 people, there are a number of smaller rooms and a fully fitted kitchen available to hire. The Jackdaw restaurant is a popular venue for traditional home-cooked English food. There's nothing too fancy on the menu here, but what there is freshly prepared, tasty, well portioned and reasonably priced. The Jackdaw has a very traditional feel, some might say a little dated, but don't let that distract you from the quality of the food. Across the road is another preserved iconic red K6 telephone box. Just like its brother down the road in Allamouth, this box also has a working payphone. The Grade 2 listed structure is right at home in such a historic little village. Gray's, where luxury is made available, so the tagline goes, is a retailer selling a range of accessories. In particular, the shop has a good range of scarves, jewellery and Italian leather. The Hermitage Inn is another popular pub and restaurant which also offers bed and breakfast accommodation. At the rear is a function room and self-contained holiday annex which can sleep up to 4 people. The pub serves food daily starting at midday with a shorter carvery service on a Sunday afternoon. It has a simple, no-frills menu that is easy to understand and reasonably priced. The Hermitage welcomes dogs. With the green canopy is Topsy-Turvy, which is a lovely little restaurant serving traditional English food at a very reasonable price. It's only small and it's easy to miss, but doing so would be a terrible mistake. Topsy-Turvy is the sort of place I would be heading for lunch, with a menu featuring such delights as steak and kidney pudding, pie and peas, and pan-fried sea bass and garlic prawns. It gets even better with sticky toffee pudding and apple crumble mainstays of the dessert menu. The Mason's Arms is another popular watering hole which claims to be both dog and muddy boot friendly. It has a well-stocked bar and busy restaurant, with food being served from 12 midday onwards. Once again it's traditional pub fare at the Masons, with fish and chips and steak and ale pie both featuring on the menu. In the distance we can see St Lawrence's Parish Church. I'll mention that in more detail later on. Sadly my photo didn't come out too well, so here's an earlier one on a sunnier day from Google Street View. The village store is the only place in Warkworth you can get your essential groceries from. It has a selection of freshly made sandwiches, pies and pastries and a few gift items. The store also serves as a village post office and newsagents. This is Bridge Street, which is home to Bertram's, a very popular cafe during the day and bistro in the evening. Bertram's offers casual fine dining and prides itself on using only the finest Northumbrian produce. In terms of accommodation, Bertram's has 5 tastefully decorated ensuite rooms. At the time of production, Bertram's is under new management, so I hope it maintains the same high standards of quality and service as before. A little further along Bridge Street we have the Warkworth House Hotel, which is a mix of 14 modern and traditional rooms, all with either an ensuite shower or bathroom. The hotel prides itself for being warm, welcoming and pet friendly. Downstairs is a number 16 restaurant and bistro, which offers mouth-watering dishes made with the finest local ingredients. Sadly I can't afford to eat here, so I'll stick to Topsy-Turvy in the centre of the village instead. I have a little bit of time, so I'll turn back to St Lawrence's Church now. The present day Grade 1 listed Norman church was completed in 1140. It originally consisted of a chancel with a stone roof and nave, which is far simpler than the church standing there today. The church was built with thick defensive walls and high narrow windows, which served to protect villagers seeking sanctuary during enemy raids. The tower was added at the start of the 13th century, with the belfry and spire being added in the 14th century. The south aisle and entrance porch were added in the 15th century. There is a fascinating detailed history of St Lawrence's in the church guidebook, which I shall link to in the description. This little library is part of the Books by the Sea initiative. There are several similar little libraries dotted along the Northumberland coast. Anyone is welcome to browse and take a book for free. In the spirit of the initiative, they show us to leave a book in its place for someone else to enjoy. The little libraries are stocked with Books by the Sea's own publication, Forecast, which is jam-packed with locally inspired poetry, photography, stories and illustrations. Across the road is Warkworth Old or Medieval Bridge, complete with gatehouse. The Grade 2 listed bridge was completed in 1379. Pause the video to read the bronze information plaque. The old bridge is constructed of squared stone with cut dressings. It features two double chamfered segmented arches, each with a span of 18 metres. Between the arches are triangular cutwaters with a pedestrian refuge built above each. The roadway is cobbled and the parapet has chamfered coping. Until the 1960s this was the only bridge into the village. With a roadway only 11 feet wide, it could just about accommodate single file traffic. Even then, the limited clearance of the gatehouse arch restricted use for larger vehicles. With an ever-increasing amount of traffic on the roads, the decision was taken to build a wider and more practical bridge. To that end, Warkworth New Bridge, constructed of concrete and steel, opened in 1965. It is positioned just to the east of the old bridge. The main A1068 road was redirected over this much wider bridge, which also has two spans across the River Coquet. This is a lovely little garden and seating area overlooking the bridges, the sort of place to sit and enjoy your sandwiches or the company of family or friends on a warm summer's day. The blossom on the trees really does look stunning at this time of year. We are now continuing along the Butts. This is one of the older parts of the village, with the old school, coming up on the left, first opening to children in 1824. This is also a very low-lying part of the village, which runs parallel to the river only 30 or 40 yards away. For that reason it has been prone to flooding in the past. I have looked all over the place to find out where the name the Butts originates from. Immediately dismissing anything to do with cigarettes and people's bottoms, I can only assume it's related to some sort of defensive wall, like the sort of thing you get at the bottom of a rifle range. If anyone knows the true origin, please leave a comment. The river is just over the wall to our left. If you look closely you might catch a glimpse of it. To the left now is a new section of flood wall. It was installed by the Environment Agency in 2014 at a cost at the time of £350,000. A year earlier this part of the village suffered serious flooding which damaged 35 homes down here on the Butts. In the decades since then the wall has kept the waters in check, so it appears to have been a good investment. This may well be the best seat in the village, overlooking the River Coquet as it continues the final leg of its journey down to the sea. While we're viewing a still image, let's have a game of Spot the Heron. I'll reveal its location later in the video. You will notice the speed humps along this section of the road. If you look at the village map you'll see that the main A1068 road winds up through the centre of the village. The Butts affords a quicker alternative route around the edge of the village, which proved popular with speeding motorists. A lot of the houses in this part of the Butts are holiday lets. Like most parts of Warkworth, the street has been very tastefully kept, with the street lamps and furniture all in keeping with the historic character of the village. The white building signifies the end of the Butts. Beyond that is Wellfield, which, as you'll see in a moment, gradually ascends back towards the castle. Now about that heron you may have spotted earlier, here's a still image again, but this time with the heron marked on. This is the final push towards the castle, which is just at the top of Wellfield. It is probably the most demanding section of today's walk. Just imagine what it must have been like knee deep in mud, wearing armour and carrying a pike or sword. We are now approaching the end of our journey today. Thank you very much if you managed to stay with us. I hope you found our walk around Warkworth an interesting and informative one. If you're ever in the neighbourhood and have a few hours to spare, then please visit Warkworth to experience it firsthand.